Hello, everyday leaders. We are back with Betty Tonsine. We are going to try this again. Last week, you may remember, we were talking about her new book, and it is called What Did I See? We had a little bit of audio technical difficulties, so we wanted to come back on tonight so Betty could really share her heart because there are so many things today that we're struggling with confidence and curiosity and making sure that our kids are getting off to the great start in their lives. And so I wanted to bring Betty back on and make sure that she had an opportunity to really have you hear her story. She's an amazing woman. And Betty, real quick before we do our audio introduction here, but I just wanted to say thank you for sharing time with us. I know you're really busy. So thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Oh, well, listen, Melanie, thank you because we've been trying to do this now for some time. And you are the busy one. I mean, you were amazingly busy. And we did. I mean, I have never used a headset. And I do Zooming. I do global programs with groups all over the world, and I just have never needed this. I thought, well, I don't want a dog, and I have kids, and grandkids. I won't have them this afternoon. I don't have a cat that's going to jump on the keyboard. And oh my gosh, it was just really, you were right. And so thank you for doing this again so quickly. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Oh, no, it's awesome. And listen, we'll be right back. I'm just going to do my intro video here. I want you to sit tight because Betty has a lot to teach us. So if you're ready to learn, grab your journals and we'll be right back. All right, here we are, everyday leaders. It is Tuesday afternoon and it is March the 7th. Can't believe it's March already in 2023. We are excited to have everyone joining us tonight that is available to watch us here live. We're on YouTube, we're streaming to Facebook, actually to Twitter, and all the different Facebook groups for everyday leaders. So wherever you're following us, we may or may not see you pop in here, but we will manage the comments as well. We have an amazing guest today, Betty Tonsine, and I met her through the ABO group in Lafayette, Association of Women Business Owners. So we're going to be posting in that group as well because what we do is celebrate women entrepreneurs. And Betty, we met because you represent Juice Plus. And that's something that I've taken for a long time. I really believe in it, right? It's getting your fruits and vegetables in the best way. But there's so much more to you. When I learned your story about your history, your husband's, difficult situation with medical errors and how all of this has changed your life in 10 years, the books that you've written, but especially today we're going to talk about the children's book that you wrote, not from the time that you thought about it, but years later. And so I want you to listen. If you're thinking about something on your heart today, I want you to listen to Betty, to her story, and then how you may be able to get inspired in your life to actually get the project done. You are incredible, Betty. So thank you for joining us and spending time with us today.
Listen, Melanie, I have to also say, March is Women's History Month.
Yes.
Tomorrow is International Women's Day. And when I was a young woman decades ago, just starting my professional career, this was not something that the United States made much of a fuss about because it was identified with the Soviet Union. And we didn't want to do anything. We were deep in the Cold War. The Soviets were our enemies. And I grew up in a basement that was supposed to be our bomb shelter if anything happened. Of course, it wasn't much of a bomb shelter. And mom had all kinds of this canned food in our pantry with a can opener at the tops got rustier over age, and the bottled water. There was no bottled water back then, so you did your own in mayonnaise jars and things. And that was getting very cloudy. And all I could think of was, I have no idea who these Russians were. This little girl, but I hope they don't come because I don't want to drink that water. And so we have changed. We really make a big deal of it now. And Billy, I have to add that I am a history professor, as you know, and I'm also a global development specialist. I spent 15 years overseas, living and working overseas with the United Nations and USAID with the State Department. And I have had since college very significant and meaningful deep bullets in the area of women's engagement in work, launching various things both internationally as well as globally, including here in Indiana, starting the first women's, getting a $1.5 million SBA grant to start the women's first SBA funded women's business center for women who want to be entrepreneurs. And sometimes that gets a little varied because of other things we're doing, like writing children's books and teaching history and Juice Plus and Patient Voice Advocate. I just spent my entire life being a social entrepreneur and an activist. But I thought about that the other day and I thought, whoa, 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 that has been a significant part of my life. So hats off to women. And yes, to women doing their endeavors. Very quickly, Melanie's right. I wrote this book 30 years ago. You don't have to be an historian. You don't have to be a polished writer to write a book. You just have a story. It's probably in your heart. I will say that you do want to have a copy editor. Please don't think that you can be your own editor, and don't ask your mom. Don't ask a friend. Spend a little bit of money because, and a good copy editor does not rewrite your material. They simply take a look at your sentence structure and your verb and tense agreements and things like that, your misspelled words, so that you look like you don't look like you flunked your composition class in high school or something. So they do not write. I would write the sentence this way. Well, you're not writing the sentence nor the paragraph nor the book, but they make you look good so that your construction is correct. And so a good one does that. You'll have to spend a little bit of money, but make sure you do that. The other thing I would say is where to get it published. And that is where this industry gets a little heartbreaking, Melanie, because I have been fortunate to have several books published, both from traditional publishers, which includes Macmillan of London, and that was for my first book aimed at young adults, an academic press for some of my academic work, including my dissertation. But I also have gone the self-published route. But with the last book, Stand in the Ways, Patient Advocates Speak Out, because, and I should grab a copy real quick. It's right here in my bookshelf. It was at a time 10 years ago when trying to find a publisher was impossible. You know, publishers would take about 80% of your royalties and you get 20%, but they have to show what they're going to do for that 80%. And at that time, it was kind of like, well, what can you do with all this marketing and how can you get it out there? Who do you know? And are you an influencer? Who are your groups? And what is your marketing plan? And can you draft it out? And I'm thinking, well, what do you do for your 80%? I'm doing all the work. And I was working with a well-known women's writer. Her name is Adriana Trigiani. Cherry Holler Hill, Tennessee. Just I don't read her books, but she graduated in the same college, women's college that my daughter did, and said I will help you, put you in touch with my agent. I think it was William Morris in New York, which is one of the top agents in New York. And I thought, oh, hot diggity, I'm on my way. Well, because we're going to think that, right? Oh, my book's going to be a bestseller, and then she didn't respond. And Adriana said, Betty, it's happening. I see it all the time. You got to get this book out there. And so I self-published. I wish for that book I had tried harder. I will tell you now with my children's book, with What Did I See?
Yes.
I did go through Kids at Heart Publishing, which is a lovely publisher. It's based here in Indiana, and they will work with you very closely and they will do what they can. But any vanity publisher, they will perhaps have tips for marketing, but they won't. They have their own things that they might do. They have their own website, for example, but it's not going to be their role. They're there to simply do some of the things you could do in publishing your book, getting the ISBN numbers, getting it to the printer, helping with the cover, a few things. They'll comb the book editorially like a copy editor would, but they're not going to be your marketing platform.
Mm-hmm.
And they just take a flat, for the most part, a flat fee, and you have some flexibility. With this one, I have flexibility to take it elsewhere if I like. But I will be really honest and tell you that I know a lot of people go through Amazon, and I can tell you that with a lot of publications, and maybe I'm just the only snob, I don't think so, but people will go to that inside flat to go, I wonder who published this, because if it's like Simon and Schuster, oh wow, that's like one of the top. But there's so many publishers now, and unless somebody's really sophisticated, or with a children's book, they're not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to look at the book. I have yet to have one person go, actually only one, and he was a fellow academic nerd like me. And of course, Rich would do that, But every time I show it to a parent, they look to see, would my child like this book?
Well, that's the thing, right? So if you have not gotten a copy of this yet, this is good for children, ages 2 to 5? Is that what we
two
really
to 5,
2 to 5?
and also early readers. And so I was reading books to my own children. In fact, a woman just bought it today at my Rotary Club. She said, "Oh yeah," she said, "This is what I'm looking for. It's rhythmic. It's happy. The children are happy. They're counting. Their color identification, and they're also from all over the world,
Mm-hmm.
and they see the diversity, and that's really important." My PT instructor, or my PT person, I'm just getting over rotator cuff surgery. She got it for her grandkids, and she said, "Oh my God, they wanted me to read it again and again because they love these children." Now, Grammy, tell me again, where is this child from? Oh my gosh, that looks like Sammy at school.
Right. So I love monkeys, so I have to open this page, but it says, "I saw one monkey who waved at me. I went to the rodeo, and what did I see?" So it teaches them about life
Yeah,
experiences, right?
the first page is I went to the zoo.
I went to the
And
zoo.
what did I see? I saw one monkey who waved at me. Yeah. One of my favorite ones, though, is two of them. Is my own children are from Taiwan. I went to the circus, and what did I see? Oh well, wouldn't every child like to do this? I saw 4 clowns who danced with me. So who wouldn't love that? The next one too was cool. I went to the castle, and what did I see? Well, and yes, there's boys in there. I saw 5 queens who had tea with me. Well, how cool. And of course, everyone's diverse in there, So, yeah.
It's such a great book. And I love the size of it, because for a children's book, a parent can hold this and a kid can really start to touch the pictures, and they can turn the pages. And so it's like the perfect size for you to put in a backpack or in the back of a car seat or whatever, so that you don't lose it. And then it's bright and cheery, so that they really want to see it. I love the sailboat on it. You know me, I love the sailboat.
Well, and in every picture of a child, there's a sun. And where's the sun? It's always up, in the right or left-hand corner. And I'd be curious. I bet you right-hand children put it on the right side, and left-hand children probably put it, but the sun is never down here. It's always up there with a strip of blue sky and a strip of green grass.
You're right. I do put the sun on the left.
Oh, okay. See, there you go. That's where of course.
There you go. That's so great. Yeah. Well, so I love this, because here's the thing. You published this. It came out in December. You gave me the first copy in December when we were at the Abo Christmas party. And now we're doing this push for Easter. So we're thinking about, hey, this we really wanted to get out, so that if you have special kids that you would like to get a special Easter gift for.
Absolutely.
That's not all, right? So we were thinking about this the last time, and I love this idea. So I want to challenge people. My wise challenge. I want to challenge people to take this into their communities. So, classrooms, classrooms that you need books for kids that want to learn something new. In kindergarten, right? Kindergarten, perfect for these schools, perfect for community programs, perfect for churches, for the playroom, for the nursery,
Mhm,
for their
mhm.
brothers and sisters that are coming in, for some of the schools that are after school programs. Betty, what we were talking about, so many of these things that got so exciting.
And there's one more. See, I attend a couple of different faith communities here. One is the First Church United Methodist, which actually takes the children somewhere, and they actually have a whole play school associated with the church, and that would be great. But the Episcopal Church, St. John's Episcopal here in Lafayette, just has a space in the back where the children can play, and they can just put a book among the things that the children look at. But yes, I was at another woman's meeting this last week, and someone said shelters. And
Mm,
I'd not thought of that. I thought, when somebody goes to a shelter, there's a sadness there. A woman's domestic shelter, or there's a homeless, they just lost their home, and the children are there, they're bewildered, they're confused. As long as they're with a parent or the other, someone they trust, a Grammy, somebody who's with them, they're okay. But I mean, your shelters are always looking for things like clothing and food and toilet items and dress for success for the women. Well, what do the children do in the meantime? Is mom's filling out the paperwork and all of that?
mm,
Wouldn't it be cool if they had a couple of these books so the children could read them?
mhm,
Because they're imaginary books. The children go somewhere when they read these books
mhm,
and they see themselves. They're not all just white children. They're children from all over.
mhm.
I remember my a little girl when she was 18 months old, and I mean George and I are white, and we were living in Africa at the time. I was there with the United Nations. He was there as an academic with the State Department. And we were waiting for Joey. We knew we were getting Joey. And Eva just came up to me, and she had this magazine we had gotten at the Taiwan. Somehow we had a magazine from Taiwan, from the American Cultural Center, and she'd seen all these people who were Chinese. And she came, and she really wasn't talking much, but she showed me the magazine, and she pointed to it and said, "Me." And I thought, oh my gosh. I mean, she could look in the mirror and see what she looks like, and she could look at her mommy and daddy and think, well, and she's in Africa and thinking, well, who am I? And she saw
Mhm,
her. It's so important that children see themselves. So yes, I have little boys and little girls and different ethnicities in this book.
mhm. Oh, hi, Janine White. She's part of the John Maxwell team
Hi,
here in
Janine.
Indianapolis. Yes, so she says it would be a great idea to take the children to a better place by reading.
Yes, yes,
Oh,
yes.
yes. So,
I love that.
Janine, here we've got these in Indianapolis, and if you're involved in a group, I would say if you need Betty to come speak to your group about how you can impact
Gonna take a picture
children.
of that.
Yes, how you can impact children in your community. She has amazing ideas. And so, Betty, I have to ask you, like, what was the thing that inspired you as a child? What do you remember the book that was the one that you said, "Oh, I love that it changed my life?"
I gotta tell you, I don't Melody, don't remember growing. There was a book called Heidi. I don't remember a lot of little. I remember Jack and Jill went up the hill, and nursery rhymes.
Mhm,
Um, but there really wasn't the emphasis on the variety of children's books. They would have been really along the nursery rhyme. Mary had a little lamb. I don't a Heidi. There is a book of a little boy, little girl. All I remember was, geez, I look like Heidi. I have braids. Wouldn't it be cool to live in the mountains and
mhm,
and sing songs while you're walking around? But there really wasn't the type of, you're for the most part, it was a pretty traditional. You had a mother home or a grandmother home. I mean, there was one car. Dad probably had it at work.
mhm.
So
Our
and
culture's changed.
yeah,
Yes.
well, I'm 75, so we're talking about a different day, the
Mm.
1950s, where I can remember my mother before she finally had her May tag, for which I thought she was going to just, oh my gosh. Our spin cycle was that thing you put the clothes through. So parents did not have a lot of time, programming the whole summer of activities. It was just my swimming pool before they came out with all this plastic was the big wash tub you put water in,
Yeah.
and maybe two of you could fit in it. I mean, so I don't remember. So all these books now for children
Mhm.
that create this, and of course they would have been very traditional books, Melanie. They would have been very traditional books. They wouldn't have been taking children's. It would have been fitting very traditional patterns. Um, there was not a lot of diversity in the books. So she remembers Lois Lenski books.
Books.
I don't know Lois Lenski. So yeah.
Oh,
So I think for me, and I don't like it when people talk about these are like the good old days. I'm sorry, no, no, no. The good old days right now, today. But we did spend a lot of time since you had to create your watching airplanes flying overhead and watching the stream come out of the back of the plane and wondering, I wonder where that plane's going. And I hope someday I'm going somewhere too.
Mm.
And now that was probably like reading a book. So that's what books are doing, is taking that imagination and going on a plane with a child somewhere. Because
Mhm.
that's really, I mean, that's the technology, just watching the planes going overhead. And then you created a lot of imaginary, out of less the books, but more the nursery rhymes and the games that you would play.
Mhm.
But there would also be people. I do remember storytelling. I think people making up a story or telling a story in lieu of books. And so that was a great imagination as well.
And today, we just have more access. I think the last 3 years have taught us that if you have an idea, there is someone in the world that can help you. And today, you
Yeah,
can get connected to them so fast by
absolutely.
just saying, "Hey, I need help," right? "I need help with this."
Right, right.
So, oh, it's just such an honor to really honor you, Betty, because you have done some amazing things. I do wanna bring you back when we get into kind of the medical segments.
Mhm.
You've got this other book
Right.
from your story, from your life story, and if you've been kind of watching, if you just signed on here, but it is a book that I think, we're gonna be able to talk about. It's called Stand in the Way, and this is from 2014, and so, I really believe that this can help a lot of people because I come from a medical background for 25 years.
Ooh,
That was my space in GI and just serving and starting companies and doing startup companies and product management, product development training. I get it. It is all about patient care, and that's what we
mhm,
were trying to help, make it better for all the clinicians that we served. But when
mhm.
you're on the other side of that and you're saying, "What's a situation that you can't control that could happen, and if it does, it changes your life?"
Right, right.
And you experienced that. So can you tell us a
Yeah,
little bit about the Stand in the Way, why it was created, and a little
right.
bit about that background?
Well, my husband 10 years ago, 11 years, oh gosh, it's been 11 years now. 11 years since has died. And 12 years when he went in, I remember a couple of days before he went in for his knee replacement surgery, which is pretty common, saying, well, I was going to go fishing today. He had a special favorite fishing spot he liked to go to. But I think I'll wait after my knee's replaced. I think I'll feel better walking around. And I thought, yeah, you're right. Yeah. And I wish now I just said, oh, no, 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 go fit. But we don't know. We don't know these things, right? He went in for rehab afterward, and while in rehab, he developed a blood clot. And in the book, I talk about how I think he got that blood clot. Well, in replacing the clot, now he did have heart disease, so he was vulnerable when he was back in the hospital, and having had a very recent surgery, and he acquired what is called a hospital acquired infection, which is these are superbugs that are in hospitals. It doesn't make a hospital bad at all. Every single hospital is coping with these and takes strenuous measures to kind of keep these minimized, but they are considered hospital errors. And hospital errors are the third leading cause of death in the United States after heart disease and after cancer. And that really shocks people because, I mean, you go and you don't think about entering at your own risk in a hospital, but now it's so the fatality is so high because you're so vulnerable when you go into a hospital.
Mhm.
And MRSA, for example, it could have a very high fatality rate if acquired in a hospital and you're very vulnerable and you're sick. But somebody else could get MRSA just by being in the gym or what have you, and not even know you have it. I mean, it's like because you're not medically vulnerable at the time.
It's kind of like COVID, right? You don't know what the symptoms are or what that's gonna happen until it really gets into your
In
body.
your own immune system, which is
Mhm.
why I'm always saying to people in my Juice Plus world, is your body ready for it? Is your body protected against or at least strong if you get hit by a Mack truck? Because all of us will have a Mack truck in our life. Some are large, some are small, but all of us are going to have a Mack truck of some sort.
Mhm.
And so I witnessed this for over a year from the point of his acquiring that infection to his dying. He got, or it took 3 months to get over the infection, but he never came home. It left him cognitively and physically impaired. And the journey was the most painful, saddest journey of my life. Watching what happened and also just observing around me because you enter a different world. Most people, when they get out of the hospital, clip that thing off of their wrist and then go get a latte somewhere. But for me, there was no, our normal life was over.
Mm.
We were on two different paths. And I thought, I can't be the only one. If medical errors are the third leading cause of death, why are we not hearing about it? And where's everybody else? Because not everybody dies. Where's everybody else? Why do I feel alone? So I decided to write a book, and I did everything. I came up with a cover. I came up with a name. I asked people, what do you think about it? It's got patient advocates speak out, and that picture was actually a business picture of a woman handing out a business card, but I cropped it with her hand on her hip to make the statement: go into the hospital, the patient advocate prepared to say, stop what you're doing, wrong pill, wrong time, because medication errors are 35% of those causes.
Mhm.
But I thought no one's going to want to just read my journey, my own journal. So I interviewed 20 different people for the book that came out of the surveys that I did. Several hundred people responded to a survey. And now, Melody was published 10 years ago, but it's relevant today. It was
Mm.
published in 2014, actually. It's relevant, very relevant today. And I'm going to give another tip for people who've got a book. I'm writing a sequel to this, a bookend to this called Aging Outrageously. And I'm going to go through the same process. I thought, well, I got an idea for this because I was at a meeting. Somebody said something. I thought, oh my gosh, is this still going on? I could feel the old outrage come back. And I thought, God dang it. Betty, do something about this. And I thought, well, how am I going to write it? I mean, what am I going to do? I
Mhm.
thought, you don't write it. You let other people be it'll be about other people.
Mm.
I'll break it into 2 or 3 different sections, but it'll probably be vignettes, different title headings like Medicare versus Medicaid Advantage, sex and old age. I mean, it doesn't die at 60. It doesn't go away. Those dating sites for elite singles and turning 50 and all that. Um, but uh, I thought, well, but if it's going to be a book, and I don't want people to think this is irrelevant. So a tip to writers is if you have a book that's still relevant, it's still timely, go in and go back to your original publisher, whoever that might be, and see what the cost might be to get a second edition. And you have to, I should not have left off my PhD there behind that name.
Yes.
It's on the children's book. It should be on this book. You don't need a PhD to write a children's book. Um, and maybe look for something I can add, and that's your second edition.
Mm.
And let me tell you, it's a little, I didn't know this. Somebody a couple I know, husband and wife, very successfully ran a textbook publishing industry. The publishing industry is very specific. And they said, well, you just get a second edition. They told me how to do it and what to do. And then I just thought to myself, Jiminy Christmas, I'm just making some changes, but people might think, oh, second edition. Ooh, that first one must have sold out.
Yeah.
Well, what did I think that? Yeah, it's sold out. What was the other tip? Oh, yeah, with the children's book, any book actually, there are some, top like the New York Times bestseller list. Well, that's going to be pretty hard to achieve that one. But there are various awards out there that are handed regionally and nationally and by division and by category. Just explore them and see if you might be able to send your book and have it be submitted, because any kind of a recognition would be, oh, wow, this was recognized by by the Wabash Valley Library Association as, wow, maybe I should have this. Oh, this was recognized by the Nurses Who Care Medical Association. It just tells people maybe I should have this book. So it's just, you're not, this is not cheating or anything like that. You're just saying, would you please look at my book and see if it's worthy of your recognition?
Mm-hmm.
Um, because it won't be if you don't let them know you have it,
Right. Right.
and maybe it will be,
Mm-hmm.
or make some good feedback for how to improve it, because you can always do that. That's that next edition, the second edition, you see. So
Oh, I
just,
love
yeah,
that.
yeah,
No, I love that. Here's the thing, right? You're never too old.
no,
Tomorrow, don't do it tomorrow, do it today. Get it done. Start it today. Write it
yeah, right,
today. Think
right,
about it today. You say 30 years ago, you had this story. And so
yeah,
today it's
yes.
published, but just think about this, the kids that are gonna read this, where we are today in our culture in the world, not just in America, but in the world, it is so important for kids to understand that they have value, that they're included, that they matter, that they have confidence, and this is the kind of book that you have written today. This What Did I See?
Yeah,
Really, really does that for them. So I want people to really think about this, embrace this if you have a child between the ages of 2 and 5, if you've got a new mother, right? If you've got a new family, if you're going to a baby shower, like, this would be a great gift for them. Do
yeah.
those, surprise baby showers, right?
Or
And
if you or if you don't have children, or your children are
right.
grown, please, there's a child near you. There's a group that works with children near you. Dollars to Donuts, there's a group, there's a play school, not libraries, because libraries do not take, the Friends will take donated books to sell in their book sales. The libraries will not take your book for their shelf. They
Mm,
have their own system that they go by, and they just won't do it. And
mhm,
they get too many submissions. Um, but a child's your child's kindergarten, right, or that play school, that shelter. Think of that women's shelter. Think of that homeless shelter. Just ask them, do you think a book or two would be really helpful for the little bag of things you have for children to do when they come to
mm,
wait? I see a lot of kids on these, don't you? You go
mhm.
to the post office, you go here, and kids are doing these things. They know how to take their little thumb, their little tiny thumb, and zip through things. And I'm watching it thinking, that kid can do it faster than me. I mean,
Mhm. Well,
they're
you
like,
know what?
what are
As
you
we're
doing?
talking, I just think about the hospitals, right? There's so many children's hospitals
Mm,
that kids are in there for so long and they just need a little of inspiration because they may be going through a really tough time. And yet, if they have some hope and imagination, this could give them the
yes,
opportunity to think differently and, create something that doesn't exist today because they had
yes.
the inspiration.
And every children's ward has got different places for different age groups, and this little book could be in that children's ward. And
Mhm.
it's a durable cover, the kids can chew on it. I don't care. It's not, you know, um, and if the book gets dog-eared, that means it's been read. Isn't that wonderful? I have on my bookcase some books that go back to, I read to my children 30 years ago. I'm reading to my grandchildren.
Uh,
They're very dog-eared. Well, that's good. You want
yes.
them to be dog-eared. That means we read them and read them and read them and read them. The children wanted to read them again and again. So,
Oh,
yeah.
Betty, you are an amazing soul. I just adore our friendship. I appreciate you so much. I wanted to celebrate you. I'm so honored that you had the time to come back and just share with us today because, this will be everywhere that we have distributed Everyday Leaders media. And so I want you to be able to really take this and touch people's lives because I know that your heart is about this. So I just wanted to celebrate you today and give you this time.
Well, I thank you again because I think everybody knows you, Melanie knows this is just like you. I mean, if you can find a way to help somebody, you are going to do that. And you do. When you said, well, just, I think I can help you do this and this, I thought, oh my gosh, that would be so amazing. I know that your outreach is just so big. And I love the woman that hopped in and shared her book and her, what she loved to read. And we do that. It's just, but again, thinking about that, hey, I mean, I'm not going to chagrin this. We've all had resort to this. I didn't have it when the kids were little, but
Yeah.
kind of handy with the grandkids. But wouldn't it be nice if you went to the post office, saw the little person sitting on the floor and they were reading, doesn't it be my book, just any book? Just
Mhm.
give them a book because all the kids want to do is have something to do while mom's negotiating the cost of her stamps. I mean,
Oh my goodness, that's awesome. Well, go and find Betty Tonsing. If you are on any of these, channels, you can just tag her in this, go to the YouTube notes and all the notes that are across the platforms and click on the link, and you can purchase the book today and have it in
now,
somebody's Easter basket.
yes. Is that do you need my email? Do you have that my email address and all that?
Yep,
Because
I've
the
got
thing
it
is,
all in the notes there, yep,
it's
and so
great, yeah.
if you need help, if you can't connect to her for some reason, just find me at everydayleaders.com. That's what we do. We build better leaders every day, and Betty, you are amazing. I really appreciate you, just so much, and everybody listen, this is what you need to do. Take ownership of your life. Do the things that are hard that you don't know how to do and challenge yourself to make it better. Improve your life, learn how
Yes.
to do something new, right?
Can I give you one last thing? This was from I think I mentioned her the first time, Joanne, I cannot think of her name. She was the first woman chancellor at, what was called then, Indiana, Purdue, Fort Wayne, and, people going back I shared how old I am at the year. I went to college in the '60s, high school and college in the '60s, and Joanne Lance, she was a psychology, professor, and she was then named chancellor. Everybody would ever had her. Everybody loved her. They just loved her. And I was having lunch with her one day. She said, I get all kinds of people coming back and saying, oh my God, Joanne, I finally figured out what it is I want to do. And she said, oh, that's wonderful. Oh, that's great. So when are you going to do it? And they're like, oh my God, Joanne, I can't. Well, why not? You know what you want to do. You know what's in your heart. Oh my God, Joanne, I'm 49, I'm 52, I'm 36, I'm 48. I have a mortgage, I have a job, I've got a part time job, I got 3 kids, my parents are sick, blah, blah, blah. I can barely find time to mow the lawn. I can't go. I mean, I'd have to go back to school. Yeah, yeah, I guess you'd get some training for that.
Mhm.
Oh, and oh my gosh, and Joanne, I'll be 65, I'll be 52, I'll be 43. It's going to take me 7 years. And she said, you're right. And she said, do you think I'll be alive then? Oh, I hope I'm alive then. Well, then you know what? You're either going to be 45 with it or 52 with it, or you'll be 52 without it.
Right.
So I guess the choice is yours, what you're going to do when you're 52. Do you want to be 52 with it or without it?
Mhm.
Because you know the path.
Oh, I love
And I
that.
just thought, "Whoa, that is so cool." And
Yeah.
the other was, the high school commencement address of my son's high school graduating class that nobody listened to by Monsignor Lester, who was a Monsignor when I went to high school. We all thought he was ancient then, so and he was really ancient now, but he sounded way livelier on stage than I remember Monsignor Lester. But there he was giving a commencement address that nobody was listening to, but I was because I thought, "Monsignor Lester?" And he said this, and it stunned me, and I never forgot it. Life is about being on the shore and where you go. People can get their feet wet. Most people are going to get their feet wet. And most people are going to go out there in the water, yeah, up to their ankles, maybe up to their knees, and maybe a little further. But he said, life is in the deep. You got to go into the deep. Now you got to be careful you don't drown, but life is in the deep.
There's
Go
a lot of
out
sharks out there.
into the deep. You know what? You're right. But you, we
That's
can
right.
play it uber safe, but right.
Right,
But
prepare for the sharks. That's the thing, right? With the who wrote that book, Swim with the Sharks? I love that
yeah,
because it's the concept that you have to put yourself out there. You have to do it. You have to figure out a strategy. If you don't understand that if you're stuck in the middle of it, you'll never take that step because it's always like, "Oh, but I don't even have the resources." And so, just like you said, time, money, energy, family, like put all that aside. What if all of the things were possible? What if all the
yeah,
things were possible? And you
yeah,
have to make that for yourself. You have to make that intentional decision for
yeah.
yourself.
You probably learned in John Maxwell that sometimes we want to do something and we're terrified, we're scared. Let's say, for example, you'd love to get out of debt, but you hate to go to the bank to admit that you are. It's kind of like going to confession as a Catholic. Oh my God, another let goes by and I didn't do it again. And but you know that maybe they might have a suggestion or solution, but you just don't. You just don't. And then you go and you admit to something, or you do something which is not comfortable. That afterwards you thought, God, that wasn't so hard. And then I learned something in the process of doing it, and they gave me an idea or a solution or address this problem. And now if it's either I may still have the problem, but I'm on my way to solving it or getting rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
And all I was thinking about, all that was going on yesterday, was it was pulling me down and giving me a lot of agony. Well,
Mm-hmm.
it's making me down. So John Maxwell probably emphasizes that. Take that
All
risk.
the time. All
Take
the
the
time.
You don't have to say yes to the bank loan or to the stuff that's being advised. You don't, but if you don't even go to the bank and walk in and start asking questions, if you don't go to the doctor and say, I haven't been feeling well for 6 months, you can deal with cancer in the early stage so much easier than if you delay it till you're in stage 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean, it's not going to be pretty however you hear it, but you'll think, okay, I can deal with this.
Right.
Tell me what I do. Tell me
Right.
what I do. So, yeah.
Ah, you're right. It's always, John always says, he says so many things, but
Mhm.
if you don't
It's
know,
amazing.
right, the
Mhm.
awareness, if you don't know, then you can't do anything about it.
Right.
What he talked about during COVID was when you're at the end of your rope, you're at the
Mm.
beginning of hope.
Ah,
And I love that because so many people were struggling with, like, I don't know which way to turn, like you said, either finances or spiritual. They've
right,
gotten away
right,
from what they were consistent in, or they lost their job, or, they went through a divorce, or they lost their house because of finances, and, all those things. It's like, but it's telling you something that you need to
right,
start prioritizing things
right,
different.
right,
And
and seek
so,
help, and seek help.
and seek help and uncovering that, like, it's okay to
Mhm.
not know what the next step is, but just
Right,
saying, I need to find out what that next step is
right,
so that I can get better. That is so critical.
that's right,
And so move, right? You got to move
right.
in the right direction.
Well, and putting
Um,
yourself into that vulnerability leads to your strength. Franklin Roosevelt also said, "If you feel like you're end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on." And then swing over to where, you're on this cliff. Hey, tie a knot, hang on, and swing over to the other edge where that first step toward help is.
mhm,
Sure, you're vulnerable. Oh my God, I'm going to swing over the chasm. Yes, to get to the other side.
mhm. I have been writing a lot lately. And so one of the things that I'm going to close with is just this, right? The transfer of information leads you to transformation.
Yeah,
So
wow.
take that information today that you know that you want to improve, that you want to be better in. If you want to write a book, if you want to publish yourself, if you want to try something new, be intentional about it and transferring that information from your head, what you know, to your heart, which will lead you to the passion that will get you to
Yeah.
the fuel to help you have the courage. So I really believe that. I've been on this journey for so long and I know that it's true. It's really scary.
Mm,
Sometimes you're pushed
yeah,
into that position. However, when you're pushed, that is putting you in a position for greatness so that you got to just follow through. You got to keep moving in that right direction. And that's why I'm so proud of you, Betty, because the things that you have done to just step forward and go, it's time. It's time
yeah.
for me to do this. So,
Okay, thank you.
yes.
Thank you again.
Yes, congratulations, and all right, so go in the notes, get the book, get it out to the communities, hire Betty to come out and speak to your groups about these children's books, and she's got so much more to teach us, and I'm sure you will be back again, Betty.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Have a great night, everybody. Continue to be everyday leaders in your lives. Have a
Love
great
that.
night.
That's cool.